Hello Internet, and welcome to my review for IDW Sonic the Hedgehog issue 11. You will notice that this is not a live reaction like most of my comic and manga videos are. That is because I filmed a live reaction last night, but my laptop did not take it very well, and it did not save the video, so I could not upload it. So we're just going to do a review. It'll be much more structured like my anime reviews. With next month's issue, it will be back in live reaction format. And yeah, anyway, before we go any further, I'd like to remind everybody I have my anime review straw poll for the winter season. Check that out. Tell me what anime series you would like to see me review on the channel next season. That'll be up until January 15th when I will look at it and see the winners. But yeah, anyway, moving on to the issue itself. When we last left off, not... I almost said Natsu there. Sonic and Knuckles were fighting Super Neo Metal Sonic for control of the Master Emerald, but it was not going too hot for them until Shadow popped up with a Chaos Spear to Super Neo Metal's chest, which knocked him out of the Super Mode, but he was still Neo Metal Sonic and was still giving them trouble, and gave Metal Sonic enough time to copy Shadow's biodata, and with that, and the power of the Master Emerald, evolved into a new form reminiscent of the Metal Overlord form from the end of Sonic Heroes, Master Overlord. And then meanwhile, the Resistance was fighting off the Egg Fleet, which they pretty much succeeded in, including using up Burning Blaze's powers to wipe out the wings that Metal Sonic had attached to Angel Island. But then with Master Overlord siphoning off the power of the Master Emerald, the island went into freefall. So yeah, on to the review itself. The issue as a whole does a great job at balancing the fact that Master Overlord is, like, insanely powerful, but also has a very obvious weak point in that he needs the Master Emerald, like, encased within himself, or he will, like, lose the Master Overlord state. And also this might be intentional, but it does feel very much like the boss of a video game, like the final boss of a video game. You know, like a lot of Sonic games, you have to, like, aim at the one spot where you can hit them, right? Especially, like, the Bio Lizard hooked up to the Arc in SA2, in Black Doom's final form in Shadow the Hedgehog, right? You can only hit him in the eye, I think. It's been a long time since I played that game, don't worry if I'm wrong. But yeah, so I think that is intentional, given that this has very much been, like, billed as the finale of the first year. It was in, like, all of the advertisement for the issues, the Battle for Angel Island arc. But yeah, anyway, with that, Master Overlord decides to take Sonic, Knuckles, and Shadow. He grabs them in his claws and, like, takes them to the Resistance to watch him defeat the Resistance. And that is a great way of getting the entire gang into the fight. And I get that, like, Metal Sonic probably wanted to, like, fuck around with them and make them watch all their friends die. But also, it doesn't really go too well for him. Even if it wouldn't have mattered in the end, because we eventually learned that, like, Tails is coming to ram the ship into Master Overlord in order to, like, win the day. I think it would have been smarter for Metal Sonic to just, like, get rid of Sonic, Knuckles, and Shadow there, and then deal with the rest of the Resistance. But whatever. It's a smart way of getting the entire Resistance, the entire cast so far, with the exception of Rough, Tumble, and Tinker, who we'll get to at the end of the video, don't worry. And to making this whole thing feel like this grand climax of everything that's come before, because it really is. This is the climax of what we've been building up to since April in issue 1. And with all that, for this final battle, the fight choreography in this sequence is alright. You know, it's nothing spectacular, it's nothing like Fire Brigade on its best days. And especially given the ending, it doesn't particularly feel like the rest of the Resistance accomplishes that much. It felt like they were just kind of there to, like, I don't even know if anything would have changed if the Resistance was not there, besides Knuckles, who was trying to, like, loosen the Master Emerald. That was the important part, and I guess they just needed something to do with the rest of the cast? I don't know. I liked it, and it was fun while I was reading it, but looking back on it, I don't really know if the bulk of the Resistance really accomplished that much. I do love, though, Sonic's strategy of, like, particularly trying to annoy Metal Sonic into, like, being distracted enough for Tails to ram the the ship into him. Maybe that's what the Resistance was doing, actually, trying to distract Metal Sonic so he would not notice the gigantic ship aiming for the Master Emerald. I think that makes more sense then. I think that was actually... I retract my complaint right there. So yeah, after that, Tails knocks the ship into Master Overlord. Knuckles has loosened the Master Emerald just enough that that final blast knocks the Master Emerald out. Knuckles flies away with it, plugs it into Angel Island, and the whole thing lifts back up right as it was touching the water. And Metal Sonic is defeated by losing the power of the Master Emerald. He reverts even to his pre-Neo state, it looked like, in that final shot we get of him. And honestly, so because I knew this was a 4-part issue, I was really expecting, and they were still in part 3, I really expected that Metal Sonic would not quite be down yet. You know, even with the Master Emerald, he's still Metal Sonic. He still is not weak in any way. So that was kind of a letdown. The fight, I mean, sure, I'm not entirely sure the fight could have kept up its narrative momentum for another issue. It would have had to have dragged quite a bit in order to get another issue out of this fight. But yeah. And in the end, I think the fight succeeds more on just plain strategy and logic than, any kind of emotional storytelling, which is a bit of a shame. It's fine. It's fine. Sonic and the gang, instead of, overcoming Master Overlord and defeating him, they just find a way to, rob him of his strength so that he's easier to defeat. And, it's good that we're not relying on a Shonen style, Dragon Ball style, power scaling, and, everything is based on your power level, which I'm not really big on. But having the battle come down to an explosion knocking free the Master Emerald, and then Metal Sonic is just out like that, it kind of robs the final battle of some of its oomph. Hopefully Metal Sonic won't be he'll wake up and he'll have some kind of final at least verbal confrontation with Sonic and the rest of the gang next issue. But I feel like it just missed some of that oomph that you expect out of the final battle. But in the aftermath of the fight, I do love seeing the gang's reaction to the fight. You know, there's a distinct difference between people like Amy or the Chaotix, who have done all this before, or Blaze and Silver, who have done all this before, and Tangle's freaking out, so excited over it. Whisper is not that exhausted, but she also uses weapons instead of fighting with her own body. So, there's definitely I like that contrast between the experienced soldiers who are just, exhausted and wants this all to be done, and Tangle, who is still kind of excited. This was a really, hype battle for her. There wasn't really any costs at all. It all just kind of went really well for her, and so it makes sense that she's all excited about it. And while the Resistance, who spent 6 months, crawling their way back into beating the Eggman Empire, are a lot less excited. And Shadow, of course, does not stick around for any pleasantries, which is kind of our first sign that, this is the end of the arc. We'd not be getting rid of Shadow if there was still more Metal Sonic to deal with. And yeah, that's really all we get out of their story, this month. But there is one more thing to talk about, and that is Tinker, the former Eggman. And his whole arc from last issue into this one is really good about making you feel bad for him. He really just wants to live a normal life. There was that tear-jerking line last issue where he tells Rough and Tumble if they're coming to beat him up, the only price of admission is a smile. It's so sweet, and I love Tinker so much. And he really does not want to be Eggman again. And my general consent, I mentioned in the last issue that I wanted a longer arc to Eggman's return. And we'll still have to see what comes of this final shot of Rough, Tumble, and Starline all looking at Eggman, at Tinker, whichever one he is, we don't know yet. But I'm not a fan of bringing Eggman back so soon. It's not, damning or the series is awful because of it, but I really wanted, to have a fairly long arc of Tinker, trying to overcome, the Eggman personality inside of himself and ultimately failing. Because of course he's not going to stay a hero forever. He's Dr. Eggman, and whenever the comic has to adapt the next game, they're going to have to bring Eggman back. Because there's no way the games are going to make Eggman a good guy. Unless the game wants to, start out with Eggman as a good guy and have have Eggman's turn to evil be a part of the game's narrative, but I don't really see that happening either. So yeah. But having some scientists come in and like zap Eggman back to himself just seems cheap somehow. It's not bad per se, but I really would have liked a longer arc there. So yeah, that's really how the issue ends. All in all, this issue is just not as good as all the build-up. All the past 10 issues were all super good, and while those were all like maybe a 9 or a 10, 8 or a 9, I'd say, this was closer to like a 7.5 to a 7. You know, it's good. It's not bad by any means. But I feel like something about it just did not click for me, especially in the fight. And it reminds me in an interesting way of the Kaguya fights at the very end of Naruto. And most of my problems with that fight return here. Not the completely unannounced existence of a new villain we never heard before. That has nothing to do with this series and everything to do with Naruto. But like how in that fight, the goal was not to beat Kaguya, it was to have both Naruto and Sasuke touch her at the same time so that she could be sealed away. Spoiler alert if you're not a Naruto, if you're like midway through Naruto. But you had 4 years to get to the spoiler. You're fine. But the goal is just to rob, Master Overlord of his power by knocking free the Master Emerald, and then it's just kind of done after that. And, maybe I'm just being needlessly hard on it, but something about it just didn't click. And that's really my overall thoughts on this issue. It just kind of, it was good, and I, accept it as good objectively, but something about it just did not click for me, and that's a shame. That's a shame for me. I wish it did. But now, Eggman's back, and we have to deal with the aftermath of the battle. Hopefully, or maybe Eggman's back, we don't know. So yeah, I'm gonna leave this video off here because I have to go right now. So I hope you all enjoyed the issue and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or fill out that straw poll down below, please. And besides that, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. As always, people, keep kicking ass and I'll see you in the future. Bye!